Okay, my name is Dylan Casso. This is week five's final presentation for criminal procedures. I have chosen the case Furman versus Georgia, 1972. I found this case to be very interesting because it it was a case that I had not heard of in terms of the complexity of what happened. Um, so I'm gonna jump right into it. Um, Little summary about the case. Furman was burglarizing a private home when a family member had discovered him. So right off the bat, we're into a crime. He's knowingly going into a home and burglarizing it. His attempt to flee, he tripped, and as he fell, he had a gun on him. The gun he was carrying went off and killed a resident of the home. And he was, of course, caught, brought in to the police station, and tried, and eventually went to trial. And he was convicted of murder, and he was sentenced to death. Now, at this point, we've established that there was a burglary, and in his attempt to run away to avoid being caught, his gun went off and he killed someone. This was not knowingly, intentionally killing anybody. Nowadays, we would consider that to be manslaughter. Back here in this time age of 1972, it was more of a broader way for people to be convicted of murder and sentenced to death just automatically. There was no stipulations, there was no categorization of, okay, what type of murder it was. If you murdered someone, it was very quick for everyone to judge to go to and hit the death penalty. So the main question of it was, does the imposition of carrying out the death penalty in these cases constitute cruel and unusual punishment in violation of the 8th and 14th amendments? The ruling of the case itself was the imposition and carrying out of the death penalty in cases where it is inflicted discriminatorily upon members of racial minorities constitutes cruel and unusual punishment in violation of the 8th and 14th Amendments. Back then, there were many cases that would show people of minorities going and doing crimes, and automatically they were being considered for the death penalty. And it wasn't cases that involved just anything. It involved, very, very intense and very bad crimes that they committed. Mainly, we were looking at rape and murder. In which case, we're specifically looking at murder right now. He wasn't trying to kill anybody, but it did happen. So it was still there was to be a conviction, but people were wondering, was the death penalty really justified here, even though he wasn't trying to kill anybody in the first place? It was just a burglary, bad enough as it is. So the conclusion that came to the end of this case was it ended up being appealed, and the Supreme Court ended up voting that the imposition of the death penalty in these cases constituted cruel and unusual punishment, and it violated the Constitution. So over the next couple of years, the United States developed a new process to categorize how the death penalty would be used, because before it was just the death penalty was an option, and they would use it most likely with every time there was a crime that involved a murder. 35 different states went around and changed their laws and their viewpoints of how they would be able to use the death penalty. That way they could make it constitutional. And when that happened, everything changed. Law enforcement, it didn't necessarily change for law enforcement. They would still go out, they'd do their investigations, they'd detain people, arrest them, bring them in. But society changed because people were starting to notice more about, okay, no, we can do better than to just throw the death penalty on these cases. We can look into it more. This person, yes, he did a crime, but no, they ultimately, the court ruled that they did not believe he deserved the death penalty because he did not go out and just kill this person with intent to kill. It was an accident. So after that, it started to affect more cases as we got into more current times. It allowed other people to be able to present their cases, whether or not they intended to kill someone, whether or not they did. And then the courts were able to allow this to help change more court rulings, which there's the list goes on and on. The main points on our list that we saw, Gregg versus Georgia happened 4 years later. 4 years later, Georgia has a completely new set of rules for the death penalty, and he was going to try to use it against the crimes he was being committed for. But because the new set standards were there for the death penalty, he tried to say, "Oh well, it's against my constitutional rights. It's cruel and unusual punishment to sentence me to death here." But his crime was a little bit different. It was more of a robbery, and it was aggravated robbery, and he killed somebody while he was trying to rob them. So that was with intent to kill. He knowingly killed that person. You can't just argue to the courts that it's cruel and unusual punishment to be sentenced to death when you've killed someone and you've knowingly killed someone. So right off the bat, just a few years later with other big cases, we're already using this system better, and they're trying to use it. People are trying to play the system, and now we have a better system to understand, to where we can rule out the people that don't deserve it, and we can make sure that the people who do deserve it are still given it. Overall, I don't endorse, nor do I don't stand for the death penalty. I don't like it. I don't think it's great that we can go out and kill people that have killed other people. I think there's a better way to do things. Do I have all the answers for that? No. But the reason I picked this case was it was interesting how just easy it was for people to use the death penalty back then. And then when you really break down the case of how it happened with Furman, there was no law. Well, when I say law, there was no standards behind it. Let's just use the death penalty if someone's killed someone. And, and it just, not many people would bat an eye at it at first. But more and more people got educated, and more people realized we needed a better way to do this. And now that's affected our court systems even to this day. You can't just give someone the death penalty without showing and establishing evidence that gives support to show, yes, this person knowingly, with intent, killed someone, and they deserve the death penalty overall with their conviction. Not only will they be serving a lot of time in prison, but eventually they will never be able to leave prison. They will spend the rest of their life in prison, and then they will get the death penalty. That's not happening to every single person that is involved in a murder trial now, a murder case. And I think overall that's better for us as a society, because we're not here to kill people, even though people do people die every day, people kill people every day. But that does not mean we need to kill everyone who kills people. There has to be a better way. So that is my presentation on Furman versus Georgia. I've enjoyed this class a lot, and I thank you for your time.